person who's stopping you from achieving your full potential is most definitely likely to be you. Okay. To think big means thinking without any constraints. It's blue sky thinking. So you think without worrying about your finances, about your time constraints, about what other people would think. And you basically think about, what would I be doing if it all worked out? I'm not asking you to think about what you would be doing in terms of the label of a job, but rather I'm asking you to think about what were the tasks that you would be doing, and really think about whether or not doing those tasks would make you happy. Once you have a good grasp on the tasks that you want to do in the future, then you have a think big goal. The person who's stopping you from achieving your full potential is most definitely likely to be you. Okay, it mightn't be the full part of the story. It is true that out in society, there are biases, there are discrimination that other people have that will ultimately hold you back. Maybe in your organization, things aren't being done as well as they should be, but nonetheless, there's so much within your own control, from confirmation bias to planning fallacy, to commitment phobia, to loss aversion, to fear of failure. All of these things are mental traps that will hold you back. When I talk about thinking big, I like to talk about the things that are within our own control that we can do today in order to move us forward in our career journeys. Organizations can create a more inclusive workplace by focusing on opportunities, visibility, and voice of all colleagues, regardless of their demographics or aspects of diversity. So what this means is that they get a good grasp on the differences in opportunities, visibility, and voice colleagues are having on a daily basis, and they seek to understand why. And from my experience working with organizations, there's usually two reasons. One, it could be that somebody isn't getting enough opportunities because there are performance management issues. And then organizations need to step in and fight and give good quality performance management training to their managers. But more likely, it's because biases are on play. And these biases aren't caused by a person wanting to act maliciously. They're usually caused by a person being time poor. So we coach managers in order to allocate opportunities, visibility, and voice in a much fairer way by asking them to make salient on a regular basis who they're giving these really important things to. You know, I've always been quite cynical about diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives as they've been rolled out in organizations. The reason being that most of them aren't evaluated for success, which is really unusual for these large investments that organizations have made for a long period of time. And when they are evaluated for success, many of them actually have negative impact or a neutral impact. So they're not actually progressing diverse talent in the organization at all. I think given the backlash of diversity, equity, and inclusion, it is now the time to have a rethink about what we mean about creating good cultures in organizations where all talent can thrive. And for me, as an individual, and also for the Inclusion Initiative at LSE, which I run, that means creating inclusive cultures where all colleagues have opportunities, visibility, and voice to thrive in the organization. And we make sure that people aren't divided by gender, ethnicity, or some other characteristic, but rather they're united by wanting to have an inclusive culture. You know, I think the workplace is already evolving, which is super exciting. And the big thing that artificial intelligence is helping tackle is busy work. So I've seen artificial intelligence being incorporated in organizations to make people more productive. I've seen it being incorporated into organizations to allow meetings to run more effectively. So telling the person who's speaking too much to quieten down, and nudging people who are speaking too little to say a bit more. It's also replaced note takers in meetings, again, freeing up time for people who had to painstakingly take notes for them to actually pay attention. It's also allowing for more focused time in organizations so people have more concentrated work. And I think that this trend is going to get bigger over the next 2 to 5 years. So it's going to mean that artificial intelligence is going to focus on decreasing the amount of busy work in organizations, which is the type of routine, boring tasks that none of us like doing, and freeing up time for us to do other things that are more interesting for the organization, like getting creative, assessing risk better, and innovating. Ultimately, I see artificial intelligence in both professional and non-professional work, making things easier for employees. The question, of course, is on everybody's mind: what are the jobs that are going to be replaced? What are the jobs that are going to stay there? And what are the jobs that are going to gain the most from artificial intelligence? And this is something that I love to talk about in my public events. Behavioral science is the study of human behavior, and it helps us understand better why people behave the way that they do. And it also helps us to understand better how we can actually change behavior of individuals within organizations. And I think that says it all. I think if you're a manager in an organization, or if you're in the C-suite or human resources, or you're in compliance, having a toolkit of behavioral science at your disposal that allows you to change the behavior of individuals in your organization for the better, getting them to align with business objectives, getting them to be more productive, even getting them to arrive on time, is bound to be useful for you. And that's essentially what I teach at the London School of Economics in my executive classes, and this is what I talk about in my public engagements. How can organizations utilize behavioral science to make employees more productive and ultimately to enhance the business outcome of the organization? I always hope that people take away from my public speeches practical insights that they can use either in their own lives to become more successful, in their organizations to make the organization more productive or to reduce busy work, or in any other aspect that I'm actually speaking on. So what you'll find is that my talks will incorporate academic evidence, but ultimately leveraging that academic evidence to give people easy to implement hacks to make their lives much easier.